For decades, the narrative of homelessness has been largely confined to the shadows of bustling cities. The cardboard signs, the crowded shelters, the visible struggle on urban streets. We've been conditioned to associate it with metropolitan blight, a stark byproduct of density and poverty in concrete jungles. But what if that narrative is incomplete? What if the crisis isn't just an urban phenomenon, but creeping shadow extending far beyond city limits, silently devouring the very fabric of small-town America? Imagine the quiet main streets, the close-knit communities, the picturesque landscapes. Now imagine them grappling with a problem they never saw coming, a crisis of rural homelessness that is quietly, but irrevocably, destroying the heart of these beloved towns. The perception of homelessness has long been shaped by vivid, often heartbreaking, images from our nation's largest cities. We see the tent cities under overpasses, the lines outside soup kitchens, the individual struggles playing out against a backdrop of skyscrapers and endless traffic. This urban focus, while vital, has inadvertently created a blind spot, obscuring a crisis of profound and growing severity: rural homelessness. It's a problem that defies easy visibility, often hidden in plain sight, dispersed across vast landscapes, and frequently misunderstood by those living both inside and outside these communities. This script will delve into the multifaceted nature of rural homelessness, exploring its unique drivers, its devastating impact on small-town America, and the systemic challenges that make it so difficult to address. We will uncover how economic shifts, lack of resources, and social stigma combine to create a perfect storm, silently eroding the foundations of communities once thought immune to such urban woes. The invisible crisis: why rural homelessness stays hidden. One of the most striking differences between urban and rural homelessness lies in its visibility. In a city, a person experiencing homelessness might be highly visible on a street corner, in a park, or near a public transit hub. In rural areas, the landscape itself provides a kind of camouflage. Individuals and families struggling with housing instability often resort to strategies that keep them out of public view. This can mean couch surfing with friends or relatives for extended periods, living in dilapidated RVs or cars parked on remote logging roads or farm properties, staying in tents deep within wooded areas, or moving frequently between temporary, precarious arrangements. They might live in structures without electricity or running water, or in abandoned buildings far from town centers. This hidden nature makes accurate data collection incredibly challenging. The official point-in-time counts, which are mandated by HUD and rely on volunteers surveying visible homelessness, often drastically undercount those in rural settings who are intentionally keeping a low profile to avoid stigma, protect their children, or simply survive. Without accurate data, resource allocation remains disproportionately skewed towards urban centers, further exacerbating the rural crisis. The very remoteness that defines these communities can also be their undoing when it comes to identifying and supporting those without stable housing. Economic erosion, the slow decay of rural opportunity. The roots of rural homelessness are deeply intertwined with profound economic shifts that have reshaped small-town America over the past several decades. The decline of traditional industries, agriculture, manufacturing, mining, and timber, has left a gaping void in many rural economies. As factories close, family farms become unsustainable, and natural resources are depleted or outsourced, the stable, often well-paying jobs that once formed the backbone of these communities disappear. This leads to a vicious cycle. Young people leave in search of opportunities elsewhere, the tax base shrinks, local businesses struggle, and the remaining jobs are often low-wage, seasonal, or precarious. The disparity in wages is stark. Rural areas often have lower minimum wages and fewer high-paying job opportunities compared to urban centers. This means that even full-time employment can leave individuals and families unable to afford the rising cost of housing. While housing might appear cheaper in rural areas on paper, the lack of supply, coupled with stagnant wages, creates an affordability crisis that is unique to these locales. Furthermore, the gig economy, while offering some flexibility, rarely provides a consistent income, benefits, or stability needed to secure and maintain permanent housing, pushing more people into a precarious existence. The dream of a quiet, affordable life in a small town has been shattered for many by the harsh realities of a transformed economic landscape. Housing scarcity and deterioration, a different kind of crisis. While urban homelessness is often characterized by a sheer lack of available affordable units, rural areas face a different, equally insidious housing crisis: scarcity of suitable and safe housing. Many rural towns have an aging housing stock, with properties that require significant repairs or lack basic amenities. Landlords may be unwilling or unable to invest in these upgrades, leading to a shrinking pool of habitable rentals. The rental market itself can be incredibly tight, with few units available and often limited competition, allowing landlords to charge disproportionately high rents relative to local incomes. Compounding this is the absence of diverse housing options. Rural areas typically lack the continuum of housing solutions found in cities, such as transitional housing, single-room occupancy, SRO, units, or dedicated low-income housing projects. Zoning regulations, designed for single-family homes, often prevent the development of multifamily dwellings or smaller, more affordable units. The rise of short-term rentals like Airbnb in scenic rural areas has also siphoned affordable long-term housing off the market, as property owners find it more lucrative to cater to tourists than to local residents. The result is a landscape where suitable, affordable housing is a rare commodity, pushing more individuals and families to the brink of, or into, homelessness, the social fabric unraveling, stigma, isolation, and lack of support. Small towns are often celebrated for their close-knit communities and neighborly spirit. However, this same intimacy can create a powerful dynamic of shame and stigma for those experiencing homelessness. In a small town where everyone knows everyone, the loss of housing isn't just a personal crisis. It feels like a very public failure. This intense social pressure often leads individuals to hide their situation, avoiding friends, family, and community services out of embarrassment or fear of judgment. This can isolate them further, severing crucial social ties that might otherwise offer a safety net. Unlike cities, rural areas typically lack the robust network of social services designed to support people experiencing homelessness. There are fewer, if any, emergency shelters. Food banks might operate on limited hours, and access to mental health or substance abuse treatment centers can be hours away, requiring transportation that many do not have. This geographical isolation amplifies the crisis. If the nearest shelter is 50 miles away and there's no public transportation, it might as well be on another planet. Furthermore, the smaller populations mean fewer dedicated outreach workers, leaving many individuals and families without anyone actively searching for and connecting them to what limited resources might exist. The very fabric of community, which ideally should offer support, can instead become a source of profound isolation for those facing homelessness. Systemic gaps, a policy blind spot. The policy framework for addressing homelessness has historically been built with urban bias. Funding formulas, program designs, and intervention strategies often assume the existence of a concentrated population, public transportation, and a range of interconnected services. These assumptions simply do not hold true in rural settings. Federal funding for homelessness, for instance, often prioritizes population density, meaning rural areas receive a disproportionately small share despite their growing needs. Moreover, the specific needs of rural populations are often overlooked. Veterans in rural areas, for example, face unique challenges in accessing VA services due to distance and lack of transportation. Indigenous communities, often located in remote areas, grapple with chronic underfunding and systemic inequities that exacerbate housing instability. For families with children, the lack of transportation can make school attendance sporadic, further disrupting their lives and hindering educational attainment. The systemic gaps extend to data collection, policy advocacy, and the development of tailored solutions, leaving rural communities to grapple with a complex problem using urban-centric tools that are ill-suited to their unique contexts. Healthcare and mental health deserts, compounding the crisis. Access to healthcare is a critical factor in both preventing and addressing homelessness. In rural America, a phenomenon known as healthcare deserts means that hospitals are closing, primary care physicians are scarce, and specialists are virtually non-existent. This problem is acutely felt by those experiencing homelessness, who often have complex health needs, including chronic illnesses, untreated injuries, and poor nutrition. Without regular medical care, minor health issues can quickly escalate into severe conditions, making it even harder to secure or maintain employment and housing. The mental health crisis is particularly dire in rural areas. Stigma surrounding mental illness is often more pronounced in small towns, and resources are incredibly limited. There are fewer psychiatrists, therapists, and mental health facilities, and the ones that do exist might be unaffordable or inaccessible due to distance. Many individuals experiencing homelessness struggle with mental health disorders, substance use disorders, or co-occurring conditions. Without proper diagnosis and treatment, these issues can become insurmountable barriers to stable housing. The lack of integrated care, where physical health, mental health, and social services work together, means that rural residents experiencing homelessness are often left without the holistic support they desperately need to recover and thrive. The invisible faces. Then there are those living in substandard or unconventional dwellings, dilapidated trailers, sheds without plumbing or electricity, abandoned barns, or even tents hidden deep in wooded areas. These structures offer minimal protection from the elements and lack basic amenities, posing significant health and safety risks. For example, a family might be living in a camper behind a relative's house, connected to an extension cord for power, but without proper sanitation. They are out of sight, out of mind, and thus remain off the radar of social services. Mobile homelessness is also significant. Individuals or families live in their vehicles, cars, vans, or RVs, moving frequently to avoid detection or to access different services. This is particularly challenging in rural areas where gas stations and public spaces might be few and far between, and parking overnight is often frowned upon or illegal. Finally, there's the impact on children and youth. While statistics are difficult to gather, studies suggest that rural areas have a higher percentage of homeless children than urban areas. These children often experience significant educational disruptions, health issues, and emotional trauma, struggling to keep up in school while dealing with the instability of their living situation. They might be sleeping in a car one night, a motel room the next, and a relative's couch the next week. The fear of being discovered or separated from their families prevents many from seeking help, perpetuating the cycle of invisibility. The lack of reliable transportation in rural areas further compounds the problem, making it difficult for homeless children to attend school consistently, access health care, or participate in extracurricular activities, all of which are vital for healthy development and breaking the cycle of poverty. The path forward, reimagining rural solutions. Addressing rural homelessness requires a fundamental shift in perspective and a commitment to tailored solutions. It cannot be solved with urban models transplanted to a different environment. A comprehensive approach must include tailored funding and data collection. Federal and state governments must revise funding formulas to adequately reflect the unique challenges and dispersed nature of rural homelessness. Improved data collection methods are needed, moving beyond traditional point-in-time counts to include more nuanced surveys and outreach efforts that capture hidden homelessness. Affordable and diverse housing options. Rural communities need innovative housing solutions, including the development of smaller, affordable rental units, tiny home communities, and repurposing existing vacant buildings. Support for landlords to improve aging housing stock and incentives for creating affordable rentals are also crucial. Expanded and accessible support services. This means investing in mobile outreach teams that can reach individuals in remote locations, expanding telemedicine and telemental health services, and supporting the creation of small, community-based shelters or transitional housing programs. Coordinated entry systems, adapted for rural contexts, are essential to connect individuals with available resources efficiently. Economic development and job creation. Long-term solutions require revitalizing rural economies through investments in new industries, supporting small businesses, and providing job training programs that align with local needs. Creating living wage jobs is paramount to breaking the cycle of poverty and housing instability. Community education and destigmatization. Efforts are needed to educate rural communities about the realities of homelessness, challenging misconceptions, and reducing stigma. Fostering empathy and understanding can encourage neighbors to offer support and facilitate better integration of services. Addressing transportation barriers. Creative solutions for transportation, such as volunteer-driven programs, rideshare initiatives, or small-scale public transit options are vital to connect individuals to jobs, services, and healthcare. Integrated care models. Developing integrated health and social care models that bring together physical health, mental health, and substance abuse treatment with housing support is crucial. This ensures a holistic approach to recovery and stability. The rural crisis of homelessness is a silent alarm ringing across America's heartland. It's a complex problem born from economic shifts, systemic neglect, and social isolation. Ignoring it means allowing the very soul of small-town America to quietly wither away. By acknowledging its unique characteristics, challenging preconceived notions, and investing in localized, creative solutions, we can begin to mend the social fabric and ensure that no American, regardless of where they live, is left without a place to call home. The time to act and to truly see the hidden crisis is now, before the quiet destruction becomes irreversible.